So this is downtown Deerfield, Illinois, and they redid it. Now, the reason I'm showing this, right over here, they have this little area. And this little area here, right off the center, they used to play live music in this. And so they redid this. This was a big thing to redevelop downtown Deerfield. And so they did this redevelopment here with the mall and that. And it's nice. And the mall is nice. But again, the thing they didn't redevelop is they didn't upgrade this, like this Exxon station now, or the mobile, or this auto mechanic place, and there's a bicycle and the Shell, and then the financial, and then they developed, and I'll go around the backside and come back around. Now, they put in housing on this side. So they have some offices here they put in and so on, but they didn't redevelop this. I mean, when you're doing it, you're doing a comprehensive redevelopment. And so they put in some places back here on the backside. There was a cleaning store here and an Italian restaurant. And so this is the thing, the cove they put in over here. This is new. They redeveloped this. And then they put in these businesses. And I'll show you where I used to live. But there used to be, there's a pizza place right here I go to. Can't really see the name. And then the back side of the mall here. So you have some businesses. And then you have a strip here of businesses as well. But, Core Power Yoga I should go to. And then they put in this car wash here, this Grand Prix, which I believe it overcharges, but that's just my thought. So Grand Prix. They did some detailing work, which was good, but they wet my fuses, and that caused the car to have some electrical. But here's this side. And when they were redeveloping this, they could have redeveloped the other side of the street. This is AT&T. Now, the train station was already redeveloped, and this is in Risky Business. So Deerfield had this scene right here at the train station from the movie Risky Business. So when you see the movie Risky Business, and this is the movie that, it was shot in, and I'll show you right up here. So here's the train station right there. Now, the sad thing here is this train station is also where a young Asian girl lost part of her leg that played for the Chicago Symphony Orchestra that got caught under the train. And she was entering and something got caught. But you have to make sure, and there should be cameras like on the RTA, an exterior and interior camera looking at the doorway. So an exterior looking at people coming to it, a proximity sensor in the camera recording distance and speed of the person approaching the train, and then the door shut, and then it determines if the person stops or not. And if the person doesn't stop, the train can't start. And it also looking from inside people trying to exit. So the inside camera is facing in, and the outside camera faces out, and it has the inside camera faces two ways, inward and outward, and then it has an external camera. You want to capture the doorway per se from the inside, but you want to capture people walking to the doorway, so it has to have three-way cameras, looking down the aisle to the right, looking down the aisle to the left, and then looking from the door, straight from the door. You know how they have the door sensor that automatically opens and closes? Well, right from there, that's placed right above the door, looking back straight towards the other side of the car, the other side of the train. So it can see people walking towards it from the right, the left, and then people walking into the doorway. And so it can track them by speed. And if the door is closing, it can determine if they're going to make it or not. And if not, they hold the door. So it can track and hold the door so the people don't get caught. So the train waits for them to exit. So they know they're approaching the door. They know how long it's going to take. And then if somebody's outside the door, running to the door, that it will hold the door for them. It can tell how long it'll take. It holds the door for them. But also, it can anticipate after it announces on the platform, please stand back, doors are closing, please stand back, doors are closing. But it needs to say further, please stand back, doors are closing. Please do not approach the train. Please stand back, doors are closing. Please do not approach the train. The reason is you don't want somebody trying to dart in, trying to beat the doors. But also in between that seam, they have a pressure sensor like they do on elevators, pressure sensor, and they have a laser light that goes on each side of the door that crosses. It's an I-beam that goes from the top to the bottom of the door. Now you have the rubber seals, but in the center between the rubber seals, see, on the elevator it has rubber seals on the inside and the exterior and interior. In the middle between the doors is where the laser light is. And it goes from top to bottom, and anything enters the light, it stops the door. Just in case that system fails, it has a secondary system that's a pressure sensor. Cadillac has it in its windows. So if you roll up the window, and let's see if this Chevy Cruze has it, but Cadillac has it, and it's been around a long time. If you do this with the window, okay, it doesn't automatically close. It just goes down. But with Cadillac, when you rolled up, and if your hands here hits the pressure, it automatically stops. Now, the problem is, how about if you're trying to protect yourself from somebody getting in the car? You don't want the window to stop. So there has to be an override button, but it's something you can't turn it off. You can press it, and it will temporarily override it for that particular time. And then it resets to the default. If your hand's in it or anything, if it gets any resistance, it stops. Any resistance, it stops. But you can press a one-time override with the button. So if somebody's in a panic situation, they can press the button, it's right there, and it will do a one-time close. So they can override it, but the button's in front of it, and they press it, and they can override it. They press the button, and then they close the window. Press the button, close the window. It's separate, two actions, and it's just a button right in front of it that they have to press first and close. It takes a split second. And it matters with bulletproof windows too. You need to get them up. And you don't want it to stop. But the whole point is, they could have also, getting back to this, redone the Deerfield Police Department, redid the TIF financing, tax incentive financing. Now, the church is a nonprofit. So you say you can't do tax incentive financing with the church because it's already a nonprofit. It doesn't pay taxes. But that's not true. You do a refundable credit to the church. So any nonprofit looking to redevelop, you can still do TIF financing. Yeah, they don't pay any taxes, but you're giving them a tax rebate. See, they can't. The deductions there, you want to give them a refund, a refundable credit. So you can give the church a refundable credit. When they redeveloped, also, they should have redeveloped the Deerfield Library. You're talking, when you're doing these things, and you can do them in phases. It doesn't have to be all at once, but it was a very incomplete project where they could have gave incentive credits to redo this housing complex and do it in stages, a revitalization through the whole community. Oh, yeah. Each stage. So what you're doing is you're taking a zone of the community, you're giving them a tax incentive credit, a refundable credit, but it can only go towards those projects. So the money you can get a loan from the bank with the tax and refundable credit. You can get a loan from the bank. The bank will give you a remodeling loan up to the credit. And then you further get the interest deduction on your taxes. So you get the credit and any interest is deductible on your taxes up to your tax rate. So you're going to pay a little bit of interest on the loan, but that's very little. And there can be a form with the village that you submit. If you're under a certain income, the village will double bonus you, but you have to show on your taxes, and it doesn't go to you. It gets directly paid to the IRS on your behalf. So you fill out the form. Once your taxes are done, it shows what you owe in taxes for the loan, because it will be part of the itemized, and you show because you own the property. So you show the interest you paid, how much the deduction reduces the interest, how much interest is left. You submit the form to the village, and they will send on behalf of you directly to the IRS the remainder of the interest tax, the interest that you had to pay for the loan that wasn't part of the write-off. The village will pay the rest of it, but it doesn't ever touch you. It goes directly to the IRS. And so the village can double bonus those that are economically challenged. So they pay no taxes and they get an interest-free loan. But the bank makes its money. The bank's going to pay taxes back. So the village gets a recapture because the bank still has to pay a 35% interest rate, a 35% tax. So the village is going to get 35 cents on the dollar back, per se, 35 cents. So really it cost them 65 cents on a dollar to give that. And remember, they get a federal subsidy because part of that interest was written off based on their tax rate. So they get the money back credited by the bank paying taxes. And yeah, and then the federal can say, okay, with this, the revenue from the bank taxes to these loans the government will rebate back to the municipality. The federal government will rebate this back to the municipality or back to the county for this particular loan. It's a refundable credit back. So the IRS gets it, it charges the bank, and it returns all interest because it's a line item. They know exactly where the interest is coming from, what the loan is that generated the interest, because it's all listed out in the form, and they credit that portion right back to the municipality. Not the others, but that loan. They credit it right back, so the village gets the 35 cents on a dollar back from the federal government. So that further reduces their out-of-pocket. The bank's going to pay the tax either way, but they get the other 65 cents on a dollar into their operating margins. And you take each section of the municipality, like up here, just because this is a private school, and this is what I disagree with the school districts. This is part of the school district, Holy Cross. And now it picks it up through private money, the majority of it, but the school district still is part of District 113. It's part of the school system, and it gets money from District 113. The public school gets all the money from District 113. Here, they get a certain percentage. They work out what a private school would get. We call this, in estate planning, estate equalization. So that the private school gets certain money funded to them from the municipality tax base. Because the people paying taxes send their students to their school, and the municipality gets extra money that it doesn't, how do you say, they do get, there is ways to set it up where they get a tax deduction for educational expenses, but that's very minor. The municipality is getting that money from the property tax, and all that money goes to Deerfield High School and other school. Highland Park and Deerfield, I think, are both in District 113. Highland Park and Deerfield are together. But Holy Cross should be an indirect beneficiary, and they get something as a private school. They get a certain thing, and they get a rehabilitation. Because, remember, this goes into the overall school system. So, public and private have to compete, but the district has to subsidize them a certain amount of money that they should receive to equalize it between the public, who receives all their money for the property taxes. Remember, they're paying double. People that send their students to private schools, because the voucher program only works on certain income levels. Like in Tucson, you phase out of being eligible for the voucher program because you make too much money. The voucher program is only for low income. The voucher program is not for all income. The voucher program is only for low income, so it allows low income students to have choice between public and private. Because remember, those students might have special needs, or their parents might be highly devout and they can't send their child to a public school. And this doesn't discriminate by religion. If they need to go to a Muslim school or Country Day, which is basically a Jewish school, Country Day, that's where Jonathan Reinsdorf went. His father owned the Bulls. He went to Country Day on the North Shore. Basically, everybody that goes to that school is Jewish, primarily. But again, you have to understand how to do this redevelopment. And when they did this, and I'll go by where I lived, and so they have the underpass there on Deerfield Road they made, I showed you, and that was big, so it didn't block traffic going on Deerfield Road, so it didn't create congestion for the train. Now on this side, there is no underpass. So when the train comes through, it has congestion. Now, you can do an underpass here, but remember, the Deerfield Road underpass is steep. You have to have great drainage, because underpasses, say you did an underpass here, well, you don't have much room, because unlike this, it's further apart over there. Here, you can't do an underpass because you have this street right here, right? You would end up on the other side of the street. So you can't do an underpass because this street is too close to the tracks. I mean, unless you started the underpass, I guess you could move the underpass and start it further on that side, and then it would come up and taper, but that would be way dramatic. The best way, I guess you could raise the tracks a little bit, maybe. It's a pretty difficult problem unless you put the train under, which solves the problem. The train can go from the station and go under and come back up on the other side. So putting the train under would be the best solution. But this is where I lived, Sunset Court. And who was our landlords? I remember them. It was an Asian family. And they were good. I was friends with the Sucks. They were Japanese. They were on the U.S. Olympic team. They represented us in judo. They were awesome. And this was a house I lived in. They redid it. Looks nice. But the Browns used to live over here on the dead end street. And Dave is dead. And this is a thing. My friend Dave Brown's dead. He was an awesome kid. Never had any issues with Dave, ever. Pete Rossi is dead. We were best friends too. Dave, me, and Pete used to hang out all the time. Like the last summer before I went to University of Arizona, when I left midsummer, it was probably the best summer of my life to that point. And it was me, Pete Rossi, Dave Brown, Jim Becker, Gary Toussaint, and Jill. Jill was Pete's friend. Both Jill and Pete smoked. Now, Pete's dead. Dave's dead. Great guys. And Pete died of lung cancer. But my other friend, Billy Chapman, he's dead. Great guy. My other friend, Pat Mann, truly, he's a great person. Good people. All dead. This world destroys good people. Truly, I can go on that I have these friends that are dead that didn't deserve to die. Even Mike Whitehead, you know, he had a drug addiction and that, but how he treated me and interacted with me, and he was screwed over constantly by his friends. He grew up in Highland Park, and he showed me how they screwed him over on Voodoo Beef Bar and many other deals, that they screwed him over out of his money from his so-called high school friends. And then, I'm going to get it. Ross used to, every so often, there was an interesting interaction between Ross and Mike. So sometimes that was a weird dynamic. But again, other people, they used to take him. And he lived with going on the street, with missing teeth and everything. And he didn't commit crimes. So even through his whole thing, he didn't commit crimes. So he's dead. Now, because of his drug use, he didn't have the greatest reputation, but he had a hot dog stand, and he was successful. And because of his drug use, the hot dog stand went under. It wasn't because it wasn't making money. It's because he was erratic with running it because of his drug use. And I'm the only one I know that tried to get him off of drugs. Now, Brandy, another friend of ours, complained that Ross should be helping Michael. And I agree. But I was the only one who tried to get Whitehead off of drugs. And I didn't interact with him enough, and I was going through my own thing, but I constantly tried to get Michael off of drugs. And I miss Michael. We had a very good interaction. His sister is famous for winning the World Series of Poker. I think she was one of the first females to be a World Series of Poker champion. She's a phenomenal card player. But let's go up this way. So all these people that I consider very good people, truly, they didn't screw people over. They were hardworking, truly hardworking, didn't screw people over, helped people out, and they're all dead. Yeah, they're all white guys, and they're dead. And I think the world's worse off without them. Unbelievably worse off. It's like Stephen Hawking's dying. The world's not better off. The world's worse off. And I hate physicians for not solving his problem with his disability. Solving the problem. Do you know how much energy he would have had and what he would have accomplished if he was healthy? If he didn't have all those struggles with his disability, how much more he would have done that the disability took away? As much as he has so many honorariums and everything as a quadriplegic, if they could have made him healthy again, I guarantee you he would have done 10 times more stuff without all the challenges. He would have did incredibly more. But still, even with that, and he was healthy till he was 21, but even with that challenge, he did incredible things. And just think if they could have rehabbed him, what he would have been. He's still one of the best ever. He would have been the best ever. There would have been no astrophysicist that would have even been near Stephen Hawking's. He was fighting, they say, one hand tied behind the back. Well, he had 2 hands and 2 legs tied behind the back. And then he had to use a voice modulator to speak. And so, if he was rehabbed, he would have been unfreaking believable what he would have done for mankind. You are disgusting to me because of what you do to these great people. And this is why the Bible makes me unbelievably disgusting. I get to see all these people get sold out, like Moses does in Exodus and many others through the Bible, and Jesus, and then the disciples. They get sold out by the people around them. Sold out. I mean, it makes me sick to my stomach reading the Bible, that the people around them are pieces of garbage, unbelievably, and all they do is try to improve their life, and the people around them fail them, sell them out, are incredible scumbags, unbelievable scumbags. It amazes me how big of scumbags they are. And this is what this country's done to me. This country, this state, this county. I've been sold out continuously. Thrown under the bus continuously. Instead of rehabilitating and giving tender loving care, which my ex Jennifer Kim was supposed to do, supposed to show me this incredible tender love and care, understanding, being there, warm and fuzzy. And my friend Billy Deck, now his brother went through it, and again, he went off a train platform at Irving Park and ended up dying. So do you know what type of death that was for his brother? Incredibly horrible. Unbelievably horrible. And Billy's dad was a realtor. And he had the health issue, and Billy and his brother suffered because the father and mother got divorced. And then Billy's best friend, who I was going to work for at a life insurance company that grew up with him, he had the same breakdown as I did. And he recovered and rehabilitated, and he was second to running a life insurance firm. And Annabelle, who's a girl on my Facebook, was good friends with, not good friends, knew him and worked for him shortly at the life insurance company. But we talked, and he went through, and his wife divorced him and left him through the struggle. She didn't stay and help him get better. She abandoned him. And me and him had that in common, and we bonded over that we were both abandoned by the girls we love. They took off on us when we had health issues. When he had the breakdown, marriage was great. Then he had the health issue, and she left. Just like my friend Crystal, another guy that she was friends with. He's a white guy. She's a black girl. She's worked at the same firm as my ex in consulting. And she told me he got cancer and his wife bailed on him. Well, Chuck, who I work with, another white guy, he got cancer and his girlfriend bailed on him. And he couldn't take it. And we talked, and I was trying to help him, but I didn't get enough interaction with him. But he didn't have any desire to live anymore. And he died. He gave up on life, just like my friend Pat Mann did. He gave up, and he let the cancer overwhelm him, and he died. Both of them died of broken hearts. They could have beat the disease, but they had no desire to beat the disease. There was no incentive to beat the disease. They're dead because everybody sells them out. They don't give them things to live for. They destroy them. The reason I'm showing you here is the other mall. They're kind of revamping this mall in Deerfield, but they should have revamped this mall when they revamped downtown Deerfield. Again, horrible planning. And I know I'm jumping around, but I see these people get sold out. And I don't think people get the same feeling I do from the Bible. I get sick to my stomach and want to throw up. That these people constantly sell out. And we're talking the masses. All the people Moses helped sold them out. All the people Jesus helped sold them out. All the people Paul helped, Mark helped, Luke helped, sold them out. God wants that to end. You and your disgusting stabbing in the back, selling out. You're serious, disgusting, filthy, unbelievably satanic individuals. Unbelievably horrible, satanic individuals. I mean, it is unbelievable how evil you are. And I watch this, and you've done it to me since I've been a child. Over and over again. You know, just after I was born, we were kicked out of the house. My grandparents died. You were kicked out, forced out. Brothers screwed over my mother. Forced out. And then I'm in the house on Drake, and then my father dies, and I'm forced in the foster homes, and then out of foster homes. And then we're cut off from all our relatives. We never had aunts and uncles or anyone come over for our Christmases. I didn't go to aunts and uncles, but my friend Jimmy Quinn, I would go to his aunts and uncles, and they had hearing impairment, and he sees his relatives. I didn't have any of that. And he had both parents. Now, they struggled with drugs and alcohol, but he still had them through his whole life, basically. I didn't. He didn't go to foster homes or anything else. So I look at how disgusting people are. Unbelievably backstabbing, disgusting pieces of garbage. I mean, pieces of filth. And I watch all these people I know that were good end up dying. And I get left around the scum. And it's true. It's unbelievable. And I watch all the wicked. They thrive. And the good people get destroyed constantly. And so if it doesn't come to end, you're all going to burn. You're disgusting to God. I can't see how you don't see that you're unbelievably unclean, filthy, and disgusting. And I mean disgusting to the nth degree. That means to infinity, unbelievably disgusting. So instead of regenerating and making them healthy, like Christopher Reeves, I have a big issue with physicians, with the medical profession. And so I go about trying to perfect their stuff, and instead of letting me do my job and find the solution and empowering me with incredible resources to find the solutions. Opening every door. Like Eric, he had a foundation called Open Doors for those people like me. Every door would open. No door closed. Every door opens. And if it doesn't, you bash it in with a sledgehammer. But all they do around here is close the door in my face. They close the door in my face. They give me the middle finger. They grab their genitalia. They're disgusting bums on the street that beg for money, that are pieces of garbage. And you think this is some game. You don't know the extent of your fucking evil. It is unbelievably deceptive, unbelievably self-serving. You are disgusting to God. And I watch all these people get plowed under. And I get left with you, the garbage. Excuse me. So it's unbelievable how wicked you are. And you read the Bible, and I can't see how you don't get sick to your stomach. So tell me, when you read the Bible, Old and New Testament, you don't get sick to your stomach of what happened to these good people, like Cain and Abel. You don't get sick to your stomach on what was done. And if you don't get sick to your stomach, there's no possibility of making it to heaven. If you don't see how immoral it is, what they've done to these people, how unbelievably evil and disgusting it is, like the tailgating right here. I don't understand why they don't take them in and beat them. But you don't understand. If you don't get sick to your stomach from the first and the Old Testament and New Testament, there's no possibility to go to heaven. Because one of the guiding principles, and you want to make it to heaven, that you must be able to see the unbelievably immoral acts within the story and be able to do things justly and righteously. And so if it doesn't make you sick to your stomach when these characters so wrongfully get sold out, unbelievably wrongfully get sold out, then you don't have the moral compass God wants. And you shouldn't be in the priesthood, or you shouldn't be a pastor or nun, a clergy. You shouldn't be a deacon or elder, because you don't have the moral compass God wants. So make no mistake about that. And He's looking for people that can understand these things and react correctly to them. So redoing the streets and the funny thing is, they're supposed to smooth this out. The reason it has all this grooves is because when they took it up, they didn't compact it correctly. So even when they're redeveloping it, it doesn't need to be, you need a four-wheel drive vehicle. Because the reason is cars go on it and the cars are compacting it. And they didn't do their job when they pulled it up, evening things out and coming out here with what? A steamroller and compressing it correctly. So they didn't do that. So you get the unevenness. And so again, it causes a serious issue. So they take it up and they're supposed to be compacting it. But whatever. But again, if you plan on going to heaven, getting back to the point, if you don't get sick by these immoral acts, then there is no possibility of going to heaven. You don't have what God wants. He wants somebody with an incredibly perfect moral compass. He wants them not to get off on these things, but to see them for what they are. But you don't get it. So these people get sold out. Like Dave Brown, the coroner, he went into a swimming area. This area, the water table was low. They didn't put signs up. Now Lake Mead and that should tell where the bottom is, and they're supposed to. Like in Singer Island, they have in the ocean, in the path, it shows the height of the sea. They have these sticks, if you've ever been down there, and it shows the level of the sea from the bottom to the top so the boats can see how deep the water is. So when they're navigating through to the docks and that, they can see how much clearance they'll have. They know, and this is the point is, they have to actually know the weight of the boat. So when you're getting an ID, those IDs need to have accurate weights. And the motor vehicle, Department of Motor Vehicles says if you lose more than 10 pounds, you need to go into the Department of Motor Vehicle and update your ID. So it has your current weight. And if you're losing weight, you'll have to go in several times to update. And this is why the digital ID is needed. So the digital ID, they can just change the weight. Where the physical ID, they have to print a whole new another one. So you can get a physical ID with chips, smart IDs, where the security systems can't be tampered, and they can update it, a digital card. You already have a smart chip in your card, and the University of Arizona went to a smart chip for student IDs. So we way back, and they used the student number and wanted to get away from using Social Security number for anything. So, and you can get a TIN number, a business number that's separate from your Social Security number if you're a sole proprietor, so you don't use your Social Security number for anything. You use the business's tax ID number that's separate from your Social Security number. So you get a secondary number that's not your personal Social Security number. We have to move away from a system that uses Social Security numbers. Maybe we move to the driver's license number or the state ID number and no longer use the Social Security number to tap into things. Maybe we use the state ID, the number on your state ID card. I have both a state ID card and a driver's license. I've always gotten both. This way, when I go and leave a tab at the bar and I have to put a ID with the credit card, and this is why credit cards should have pictures on them, but if I have to put an ID, I give them my state ID card, not my driver's license. My state ID card, not my driver's license. But here, these pieces of garbage have to drive flying up on you. I'm not going below. I do the speed limit. But some reason they have to be tailgating you? Why is that? That means no one cares about the speed limit. No one gives a crap about the speed limit. They break the law every day, numerous times a day. Everything is optional in the United States. You don't have to follow anything. Everything is optional. And I watch them break all the laws all the time because everything is optional. So I don't see it saying it's optional. It doesn't say it's optional. Now, there's exceptions when you're having the pass and other things. Okay, you might have to speed up temporarily. But again, all these people think everything is optional. And you teach them everything is optional. That all the laws you follow only when you want to. And I disagree. They're all mandatory under the Constitution. They're not optional. And then, if you do something that's totally corrupt, you change the law so you can break the law, which politicians have done. Originally, politicians were outside the Insider Trading Act. They carved themselves out. Do you know that originally, when they passed insider trading, they carved out politicians? I'm talking the original Insider Trading Act that Michael Milken and others went down on. Politicians carved themselves out, and they were front-running legislation. They knew a bill would be passed, and they weren't in blind trust, and they were managing their own portfolios. And they were using options and other futures and other things, buying stocks and so on, ahead of everybody else. And I'm talking city government, county government, state government, federal government. They carved themselves out, but people like Michael Milken go out. This is why, in one way, I have sympathy for Michael Milken, but in another way, I don't have sympathy for him. But again, now, Peter Lynch, he traded outside the prospectus of the portfolio and broke the covenant. His promise to maintain within it wasn't optional. Now, Bill Gross, he came up with something because the treasuries weren't trending down anymore, so they came out with the unrestrained bond fund. So Gross stayed within the parameters of the law, and he needed more flexibility. Do you know you can change a perspective on a portfolio? And Peter Lynch could have done that with the Magellan Fund. Went to Fidelity, told them we need to modify the prospectus. I'm not having the ability to manage. I need this temporary exception. You know you can publish an exception to a prospectus. Now you have to give it out and notify everybody that's invested. But you can do a one-off type of trade. And Peter Lynch got fined for doing this one-off type of trade. Now the trade did pan out in his favor. And there's another guy who did this as well. Again, instead of going to the investors, disclosing and doing the one-off, he went outside and he got put in jail, criminal charges and that for going outside and violating the prospectus. Oh, he got charged criminally and he went away, but his trade paid off. His trade paid off huge. Unbelievable. But he still went to jail. Initially was losing big, and that's how he got discovered, that he went outside the prospectus. But he was right. He saw it. He read it right. All his research was right. And it paid off big time, but he went to jail. Didn't matter. He violated the agreement with the shareholders. You have to send out, but you can do an exception with a portfolio. And this is where I'm trying to save fund managers from being the next Peter Lynch or others. So Michael Milken, hey, if you get inside information, all you have to do is disclose it. Do you know that? Then it's no longer inside information. You can make it public. Take out an article, get it published, call a news station, Like WGN. Now talk to your lawyer first, but if it's not violating any covenant, meaning any, let's see, these laws that you weren't supposed to disclose it, like it was a national security issue, meaning it was already rated top secret, or secret, or the SEC says it can't be disclosed. And I told you the story of the guy who was an auditor who went into the CFO, and he kept on asking him certain questions, and the CFO told him, I can't answer that. And he's like, what do you mean you can't answer it? You need to answer these questions. And he's like, I can't answer those questions. Now the CFO, should have explained to him, and this is a true auditing situation, and it was one of the auditors that were auditing his firm, and he went back to his boss and he said the CFO is being very, how do you say, deviant. He's not answering these questions. And he said, what were the questions? And he gave him the question. And he's just like, he can't answer those questions. You're not allowed to have that information. That would be violating SEC rules, and he would be violating giving you insider information, and he can't answer those questions. So the CFO wasn't being deceptive. He was doing what was required by the law for him not to disclose certain things. And he's like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's a problem with auditors. What you can and can't ask. And I said that to people. Just because you think you can doesn't mean you should. There are questions you can ask and questions you cannot ask. And that's what Jesus did with the Pharisees when they asked him. And he replied with a parable. There are questions that they can ask, and he has the right to remain silent. So the government can't ask anything more of me. I have the right to remain silent, and only those that I choose to disclose anything to, I choose to disclose it to. So the government can't do anything to force me to disclose anything I'm saying. So I don't get that. And that's the whole point of that story with the Pharisees. In Jesus' eyes, they had no right to know. And it's the same thing I had with Jen, my ex. She had to jump through a certain hoop for her to have a right to know. And she was almost there. I just had to prove one point of something she said to me that it was true. And then I would have opened up. But my sister, she didn't help me. And it was something related to a girl. And you think I could turn to my sister and ask her that question, that if somebody tells you, like they make a big point about being a virgin, and you feel that it didn't seem right because you've been with other virgins, and you have questions about it, you would think your sister would say, because did she dupe you? The point is, were you duped? And then my sister worries about another relationship with her kid, that he might have been duped into marriage. And so it's funny how this question comes up later, and now she has these questions. But it's okay for her to have those questions of trying to establish validity, and was it entrapment, and was it a situation where they created an anchor baby, which they get pregnant in this country, and they get pregnant to create an anchor child. And we had this from people coming over that were undocumented that created anchor babies. So these things of entrapment, they come over knowing illegal, but they have the child. The child's a U.S. citizen, and now you don't want to separate the parents and the child. Again, it's the same thing. And I was just establishing this big point, and she made a big point about it. And I think it's a big point that I was the first and that she was a virgin. And there are certain things that tend to line up, and I had questions about it. Somehow, I'm the bad person, wanting to make sure that she questions me on things, and I tell her the absolute truth. And again, I had questions, and I wanted to know why this didn't line up from what I know. And so I wanted to know these things, this last little piece. And my sister called me a sicko. Hold it. Wouldn't you want to know if somebody lied to you? That a very important piece, especially for a girl, that it's a very important thing the first time. But it's for a male too. They underrate it, but to me, it was a very big deal. But the whole point is, you trying to establish validity of things, and you have questions, and you want to know why these things don't line up, and you turn to your sister, who you think you can rely on, to be there to answer questions related to the female perspective in a relationship, making sure you're not getting taken, right? So I had one remaining question. That's it. So these cops have been pulling me over left and right and harassing me, and they have no reason. They can't use this video against me. So again, it's just like this tailgater right here, coming up on me, flying up on me. It's interesting how this happens, but this guy, he does nothing about it. They drive around and they do nothing. They burn gas. You know how much it costs the municipality every year for gas for them to drive around and not enforce the law? It's insanity. So, insane. Now he pulls up behind me, but doesn't do anything about this person right here. And so God watches these actions of these municipal officers in their approach, who they pull over and who they turn a blind eye to in their criminal endeavors. And there's a big difference. So these people are pieces of garbage, and they give them a badge. Serial killer cops like Drew Peterson, and all the blues stood behind him, just like the serial killer cop.